Good evening. You are now watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Vincent Chan, and here's a look at tonight's top stories. Chief Secretary Eric Chan says the 0+3 arrangement is the best for now. Children from poor households are the hardest hit by long COVID, according to a survey. And Max Verstappen of Red Bull races to his second world crown in 2 years. The government says the 0+3 arrangement is here to stay to prevent a rebound in COVID cases. This comes as the administration was urged to provide incentives to boost the vaccination rate before winter. Janice Low reports.
Despite growing calls for a further relaxation of pandemic measures, Chief Secretary Eric Chan insists that the city cannot let its guard down. In a social media post, he made it clear that it's best for now to keep the 0+3 arrangement, under which arrivals cannot visit premises such as restaurants during their first 3 days in the city. Although the business community is pressing for an end to all restrictions, Chan said the government has to strike a balance to prevent a rebound in COVID cases. A survey, meanwhile, has found that worries about side effects prompted almost half of the 147 respondents not to vaccinate their children. The Society of Hospital Pharmacists also found that only 6% of people in the 50 and above age group had received a booster shot. The society suggested that incentives be offered to boost the vaccination rate.
I think the government should set out the time frame or the timeline to tell the public when we could relax the restriction to go to mainland China. This is very important. If the Hong Kong people, knowing that the time frame, they may welcome to receive the 4th dose of the vaccine.
In another development, BioNTech is seeking government approval for its bivalent booster for Omicron subvariants BA.4 or BA.5. Choi said the vaccine is more effective against variants, but it's not known when it will be available in Hong Kong. Janice Low, HKIBC.
Hong Kong's COVID cases have exceeded 4,000 for the 4th straight day. There were 4,890 additional infections, 328 of which were imported. COVID claimed 3 more lives. A total of 1,605 virus-hit patients are in hospital, 230 more than yesterday. 14 are in intensive care. A survey has found that nearly 80% of children from grassroots homes are suffering from long COVID. This has affected their studies, prompting calls for the government to act. Chloe Feng reports.
Over 210,000 children and teenagers were infected by COVID since the start of the 5th wave, accounting for 20% of the population under the age of 18. While most returned negative results later, some symptoms remained. This student said her memory worsened. I used to only need 1 or 2 hours to review my schoolwork, but now I need 2 more hours, she said. Another student says he's always tired and sleepy. A survey by the Society for Community Organization, or SOCO, and the Hong Kong Committee on Children's Rights found that in the past 2 months, over 77% of 120 grassroots children suffered from long COVID symptoms. Over half of the respondents, aged between 7 and 12 years, had brain fog, where their memory and attention span diminished. About 1/3 reported fatigue, and nearly the same number complained of insomnia. The symptoms lasted between 1 and 6 months. Some felt isolated or discriminated against because of their condition.
The long COVID symptoms actually affect the children from underprivileged more because actually many of them before they already not enough nutrition, and then once they are being infected and then they don't have proper medical support and to help them, so it's difficult for them to recover.
Zi added that the current 10 free Chinese medicine consultations are not enough for disadvantaged children to recover. She urged the government to set up specific long COVID clinics and extend the consultation period beyond 6 months if symptoms persist. Education and medical assistance should also be provided. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
Financial Secretary Paul Chan says the city should not be overawed by Singapore, as Hong Kong has performed better in many areas. Writing in his weekly blog, Chan said Hong Kong's financial services market contributed $76 billion in 2020, equivalent to 23% of local gross domestic product, which was 1.5 times bigger than Singapore's. He said transactions in Hong Kong stocks reached a record $41 trillion last year, more than 20 times that of Singapore. Chan also cited achievements in foreign exchange services, bond markets, green finance, and asset management. His defense of Hong Kong followed concerns that the city is falling behind its rival. Snorkeling is posing a threat to corals around Sharp Island. Many of the corals in the popular snorkeling area have already turned white because of the recent heat wave. Chloe Fong reports.
The effects of climate change may not be very visible in Hong Kong, but it has taken a silent toll, especially on marine life. About 90% of corals near Sharp Island bleached, as Hong Kong recorded its hottest July. While the cooler weather has brought some color back to the corals, those in shallow waters are not so lucky. Many of the corals were broken due to people stepping on them, affecting their recovery, said Dixon Wong of the Hong Kong Nature Education Astronomical Center. Sharp Island off Sai Kung has been long favored by snorkelers. During weekends, thrill seekers join groups to take a dip, but overcrowding in shallow water hinders the coral's recovery. Snorkeling coaches remind people not to step on them, but this is hard to enforce among big groups. Beginners might feel scared and want to stand up in the water, but they don't know if they're standing on a stone or on corals, Wang explained. He suggests snorkeling coaches should be certified based on their understanding of guidelines for protecting marine life. He also urged people not to leave rubbish on beaches and not to use suntan lotions during snorkeling. The Agriculture, Fisheries and Conservation Department said the current measures are working well. Chloe Fong, HKIBC.
Overseas, there are growing fears that North Korea is preparing to resume nuclear testing for the first time in 5 years. Analysts raise the possibility after Pyongyang launched 2 more ballistic missiles. The launch today was the 7th in 2 weeks. The missiles reached an altitude of 100 kilometers and flew 350 kilometers before falling outside Japan's exclusive economic zone. North Korea says its missile tests are for self-defense in case of an attack by the United States. Tension has increased in the Israeli-occupied West Bank after 5 people were killed. A Palestinian man shot dead an Israeli soldier at a military checkpoint in East Jerusalem. Just hours earlier, Palestinians buried one of 2 17-year-old youths who was shot in an Israeli raid on a refugee camp in Jenin. The troops were searching for a wanted man. Israeli incursions into Jenin have taken place almost daily recently. 2 other Palestinian teenagers were killed by Israeli fire in separate incidents. Onto the weather now. The feel of autumn will be upon us tomorrow. Temperatures will range between 22 and 28 degrees. It will be dry for the next few days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Sunday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Vincent Chan. Good night.